Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Macclesfield Town Council Planning Committee meeting. This is the agenda for the 26th of February 2021. We have a full complement of councillors, so there's no apologies for absence. Are there any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. Declaration of interest on application 17/4277M. Robinsons used to own the building that we now own, just for transparency, and application 21/0394M, 11 Brock Street, just for, again, for transparency. This application is just down the road from where we live at present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seems to be a Zoom freeze on screen here, so I'm going to move on to the minutes. We accept the minutes as
can we just
an accurate
clarify?
Account of the last meeting.
Sorry, can we just clarify? There's no public attending or any comments today.
Yeah, there's no members of the public attending the meeting today, and no comments received.
Are you with us, Chair?
No, I just seem to have lost everybody. We're just I have in front of me frozen screens.
We can hear you okay, Chair.
Okay, right. Well, I'll take it then. I'll just continue then. Just sadly, I can't see the screen there. Just a series of frozen images. But I'll just carry on through then. If it doesn't improve within a few seconds, then perhaps the Vice Chair will have to take over. We're moving on to the planning applications.
No, Chairman, I think we've got the minutes, and I'm at item 3. It's the minutes of the planning committee, and I'm happy to propose them as a true record.
And I'll second them, Chair.
So proposed by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Those in favour?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody's in favour, Chair.
So that's all in favour. All right, thank you. Very difficult doing this in the dark. So we're ready to move on to the applications.
Just item 4,
the first
please.
application is.
Can we do item 4, please?
Yeah, item 4, matters arising from those minutes.
Yes, Chair. Just one quick matter arising that actually does relate also to application 3097M. That's in respect of the Telford Road application. On page 4 of the last minutes, I did provide a report back. At item 4, page 2 of the last minutes, I did provide a report back on the decision of the Strategic Planning Board to defer this application, and we agreed to write to the planning officer about our concerns about the traffic management system application changes not being taken at the same time. I understand that letter was taken on was sent on the 19th of February 2021, and we remain waiting a response. Thank you.
Thank you. Sadly, I still can't see your movement on screen, so we move on.
Are you happy to continue?
I may have to. I may have to leave and rejoin.
Chair, can I
can't-
suggest something? Can I suggest that we actually pause for a second and that you leave and rejoin and see if that helps the situation? Could we perhaps pause the meeting while we do that? Then the chair can participate properly, fully.
Yeah, I think I think that's definitely the right thing to do, because I can't carry on the meeting in this situation.
No, and you need to be able to participate whether you're chairing the meeting or not. So I move that we pause for a second to allow you as our chair to leave the meeting and return.
Yes, I agree with that.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Harriet,
Yes.
we're just waiting. Is it possible for you to call up this E3P document on the whiteboard for that item, that planning application, please?
Which we're talking about 3097M.
3097M. Just to save time.
Right, everything seems to be back and we've got moving figures in front of us. Thank goodness. Well, that was a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, trying to work through blind on the meeting. So we've got through somehow. Apologies for absence, declarations of interest, minutes, and matters arising from those minutes. So we can actually move on now to the planning applications. So the first planning application is 19/3097M, which is the land between Chelford Road and Worley Road. Who would like to speak on this? Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair, I did just briefly under matters arising refer back to our last meeting where I did give a report of the outcome of the Strategic Planning Board, including our letter of the 19th of February to the planning officer regarding the traffic management scheme. There have now been some new proposals put on the planning portal for consideration, which mainly appear to be some small redesigns to the properties and also a bit more detail about the drainage scheme. What isn't covered, however, in the new documents is anything to do with the traffic management scheme I've just spoken about. There's nothing about air quality, and this area was an area where the air quality management system had repeatedly indicated air quality below the legal minimums. Actually, I think that should be above the legal maximum. The other things the other way around. And also, when I spoke at strategic planning, in addition to covering air quality, I also covered about roads and footways and about how you would get from this development into Macclesfield without going down the very, very busy Chelford Road, the A537, and also concerns about schools and medical services. And of course, all the nearby schools to this development are currently full. We know that there's new building going on at Ditherington School because we've considered planning applications in the past about putting new additional classrooms at Ditherington School, which of course is 2.6 miles away from this development. And one of the key points I made at the strategic planning board on behalf of this committee was that much has changed since the application was made in 2017. I don't see that the issues here that we had concerns about have been addressed in any way, shape or form. I therefore propose that we continue with our objections on the same basis as before. I mean, I can go through those in detail if you wish, but there are quite a lot of them. So would you like me to very quickly go through?
I think it'd be good to summarise it for the members of the public.
Of course, yes, I will do, Chair. So our objections remain the lack of pedestrian paths and cycleways in the development, increased congestion on already congested roads, the removal of mature woodland and hedgerows, the risk to flooding in the area following the development, the removal of peat from the site, contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework and Cheshire East's local plan strategy. And then there's a further 12 points, I'm afraid, Chair, but I will read them out because I think it's important for people watching. The site is within close proximity of the Broken Cross Air Quality Management Area, lack of cycle and pedestrian routes, increase of traffic on already congested highways, increased pressure on public services, high density of housing in the development. The density of the development is in excess of the site allocation within the Cheshire East local plan, which indicates around 150 houses for the entire site, whilst this partial site includes for around 250 residences, increased pressure on primary care facilities, increased pressure on the availability of primary school places, lack of evidence that there is capacity in local secondary schools, removal of trees and hedges that will result in the loss of wildlife habitat, concerns on the risk of flooding in the redevelopment area once the hard standing has been completed, and that the application doesn't meet, therefore does not clearly meet various local plan policy requirements of LPS 18. So those are the grounds we've objected on in a number of times in the past. And in fact, what I'm reading from here is actually the report that went to the Strategic Planning Board, the public document. Pages 14 and 15 of the officer's report details our objections in full. And I move we resubmit those objections. See nothing on the revised plans to change our view, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to second that or speak to that proposal? Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. Yes, I'll just formally second that.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I just wanted to speak, sorry, I had to take a phone call there, I hope I didn't miss it, about the peat extraction. Is it possible to speak at this point?
Of course, yeah.
There's a document which Harriet can call up, I think, which is called E3P, which details what they're going to do with this peat. They, in this document, which is prepared, remember, for Bellway, it actually mentions 24,000 cubic meters. It's a huge amount. It's 700 lorry loads, I think it says, somewhere or other. It's a little bit further down, Harriet. If you could just keep going, keep going, keep going. Whoa, back a bit. I think it's there. Yeah. 24,000 cubic meters of peat. Now they're intending to push around 14,000 cubic meters. But that still leaves 10,000 cubic meters, which will require removal from site to a suitable facility. Now, I was under the impression, and we were assured by Councillor Mannion in the local plan and so on, that no peat could be removed from the site, none whatsoever. And I do actually have, if you want it, I have quotes from the local plan which mentions this and so on. I just do wonder how it's possible for them to go against the local plan and say, well, we've still got to move 10,000 cubic meters of peat. There is the complication I consider, and we're going to talk in a second about Cockwood and so on the other side of the road, that if it's raining or something, when they start taking this peat out of the ground, that it's going to get into the waterways, the water, you can't stop it as far as I can see. It will have contaminants in it of various sorts. I don't know what, sulfuric acid and things. and it's going to be passing through Cockwood on the other side of the road, which is an ancient woodland. I'm very, very unhappy about this peat extraction and so on. I don't honestly know how they hope to get away with it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So we have a proposal and seconded that we refer back to the objections that we've made previously. So those in favour? We have 4.
Lloyd?
Councillor Roberts is in favour as well. So that's us all. Thank you. And we move on to the application 195582, which is reserve matters following the outline approval to the land to the south of Shelford Road. So we're in the same area. So are we any councillors who would like to comment on this application? Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This land is literally across the road from the parcels of land we have just been speaking about. We have discussed this planning application a number of times in the past, and most recently we discussed it in December 2019, and we made a number of observations, very much similar to the observations we've just made. I don't see anything in the reserve matters that have addressed those concerns. So if that's okay, I'll just quickly go through what those concerns were. Sustainable transport provision to include cycleways and footpaths to access infrastructure and services in Macclesfield. Provision of electric vehicle charging points in communal areas and at each of the properties. Accessible waste and recycling points. Sufficient off-street parking for all properties. Mixed dwellings and housing types. Delivery of 30% affordable housing. Protection of existing boundaries. Protection of existing trees. That pedestrian and cycle access to the remainder undeveloped northern portion is accommodated and secured for potential future development as identified in the Treasury's local plan. Secondly, we recommend the development is served by a bus route with upgrades to bus stops on Shelford Road and the introduction of a pedestrian crossing to facilitate safe road crossing. And we also expressed a concern about vehicular ingress and egress to the development is actually that's sufficiently provided for, because this is another really large development on the other side of the road from this previous large development. It's going to significantly increase the traffic on both sides of the road, turning left and right onto the main A537. And there are also issues here about peat relocation. We need to re-emphasise the point that Councillor Edwards has just made. It's our understanding, and we believe this has been confirmed by planning officers at Cheshire East Council, and it's actually the legal position that peat cannot be removed from sites. It has to be redistributed. So I think that we should reiterate our existing concerns, pre-existing concerns about this land, and await to hear the environmental impact assessment to cover a number of those points. Thank you, Chair. That's what I move continued objection.
Thank you. We have that. And Councillor Edwards?
I second that if there was a proposal there.
Yes, there was, yeah.
And also to reiterate what I just said about the peat and so on, I fully support Councillor Wilson. It also concerns me, I'd like to just reiterate that there will be contaminants entering this stream. I don't know if you've seen, Chairman, the chap going round Tidrington that sort of snows the cars when they wash them. You know, it looks as if, you know, it's absolutely white, the car, with suds of some sort. I just dread the thought of all this stuff when people wash their cars on Shelford Road, all this going into this little stream, going through what they call Cockwood, which is an ancient woodland, which we've got to protect. I can't imagine the damage it could do to it. But other than that, I fully support Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So we have does anybody else would like to speak on this? So we have a proposal and seconded. So those in favour of referring back to those, thank you. So moving on to application 3. This is 21 0450, which is a single-storey extension on West Park Drive. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I would like to propose that we object to this application on the grounds of insufficient information regarding land contamination. It appears that the conditions concerning land contamination have not been discharged by the original builder of these properties. And the residents now coming along wanting quite rightly wanting to put up an extension, and unfortunately there are these land contamination issues. I know that the Cheshire East officers have recommended refusal of this on these grounds. So I think it will then just be up to the resident to see what can be done. I'm not quite sure where they go on that, but as far as we're concerned, I think I might express concern for the resident, but we will need to object to this for the reason that I've stated. So I'm moving that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to either second that or speak to it? Councillor Wilson?
Yes, I'll formally second.
Formally second that. Yeah, it is an unfortunate situation for the resident, but I think we have to put that to the vote. So those in favour of that? That is all. So that needs to go back. Thank you. Application 210483, which is a side extension and garage conversion on Ivy Lane. Do you have any comments on that? No? So moving on, 210519M, and this is an application for some boundary and wall changes. It's the boundary wall which is falling over slightly, and access to a side road. It's on Blakelow Road, 56 Blakelow Road. Do you have any comments on this? Councillor Wilson.
Just to note, Chair, that there's been some neighbour objections regarding this application about noise and loss of privacy. And whilst I think what I would like to propose is that we make a comment that when this application is considered by the planning officer, that the issues raised by the neighbour of concerns about noise and loss of privacy are adequately addressed in the planning decision. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we need to second that, or do we just note that and pass that on? Yeah, so we'll pass that on to the planning officer. Moving on. Next is on the top of page 3 of the agenda. This is 210457M, which is an extension of the first floor of an existing garage, and it's in Kenilworth Road. Any comments on that? No. Next, 210554M, single story extension on Hamble Way. No comments on that. Next, 210508M. This is a single story rear extension on Monsell Drive. And no comments there. And 210566M. This is a demolition of existing conservatory and a proposed 2-story rear extension on Linnet Grove. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, this again is another case where there have been a number of neighbours' concerns raised, and again I think we should just ensure that the officer takes those into consideration when he's making his decision on this application.
Thank you for that. We move on to the next, which is the 210518M, and this is the demolition of an existing conservatory and a proposed ground floor single story extension to the rear of a property on London Road. Any comments on that? No. Next application, 210446M, and this is a variation of condition 3, which is opening times, and this is on 106 Mill Lane. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is on Central Ward. It's a chip shop, and this will allow the business to operate on bank holidays between 8 in the morning and 8 in the evening, and I think that is acceptable in the position that it's in on London Road. So I'd say no objection to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next application, 210660M, and this is the conversion of a garage into a bathroom space on Craig Road. No comments on that. Next application, 210538M. This is a new single story side extension on Cherrington Crescent. Again, no comments there. Next application, 210539M. This is a proposed new roller shutter door on Maintenance Supplies Limited on Green Street. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, when I looked at this, there were some photographs to show the building and the proposed site for the roller shutter. I thought it was just a shame that they were going to be breaking through the wall of this building, which is, it's not a heritage building, it's not that old, but it has a character to it. And it has two pointed areas, and one area they're going to cut through with the roller blind. I don't believe there are any planning reasons to refuse this. It's just really a comment from me that I just thought it was a shame that it would impact on that frontage. But I can see their need to do it. And looking at the floor plans, I think it might be possibly because they're wanting to split the unit, and so there'll be another entrance into the area for them to be able to use it for two separate businesses. And you know, that's the sign of the times. So just a comment from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Next application, 210657M. This is a first floor rear extension on Derwent Close. No. Next application, 210394M, and this is a new dwelling on the land at the rear of 11 Brock Street in Macclesfield. You have comments on that? Councillor Jackson? No?
Can I comment, Chair?
Yeah, certainly, yeah. Councillor Roberts?
This is an application that's been, they've had a previous application refused a few years ago. Looking at the plans for this, I would consider objecting to it on the grounds of on the basis of the building, the size is overbearing, and the impact is overbearing on the residents around it. The traffic impact would be absolutely unbearable to the local residents due to the parking problems we have around here, and at a time when we're fighting for literally single parking spaces on a development at King's, 100 and odd houses. This one, we are fighting for every car parking space we can get. This one property, if it was to be allowed, would probably take 3 parking spaces off Core Street alone because of the splay accessing onto the Core Street. So I'd like to object to it on that ground. And I do, regarding bank land development, policy 8OU8, I think it contravenes 1 to 4 all points raised in that policy, and it's looking at the actual design of it, it would be the only double fronted building. Street scene wise, it just wouldn't fit in. It would be the only double fronted building on Core Street, apart from the pub, which is a separate entity because it's a business, not a house. So all in all, I just think street scene, overbearing, the traffic impact, and the bank land policy would, in my eyes, be sufficient for refusal. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that clarity, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. Yes, I'll second that objection. It's definitely, I think, you know, cramped development. It's overdevelopment of the site and would certainly impact on the amenity of the neighbours. And as Councillor Roberts has said, it's out of keeping with the street scene and backyard development. You know, it's just not acceptable. So for all those reasons, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So all those in favour of those objections? And that's us all. Yeah, thank you. Next application is 210703M, and this is for signage at the Weaver pub on Thornton Square. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'd just like to say it's nice to have an application for signage that isn't something that's all flashing, all singing, all dancing, garish, you know, everything, you know, all these words you can say. This one I've written very tasteful. I do think that the whole complete scheme, they must be commended on the scheme. I think it's a great scheme. Really suits that area and that building, so to be commended on it. Yes,
thank you. Well, I used to live in that area and I think it looks tremendous, yeah, in comparison to what it was before. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, this is actually on my ward and I completely share Councillor Jackson's the pleasure at this, and in fact the comment you made was exactly what was going through my head when I saw it, how tasteful and appropriate it was.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
It's a very small thing, Chairman. I fully support Councillor Wilson and Councillor Jackson. Just aesthetically looking, I think it's rather strange to have the sign poking out of a pitched roof, but as there was one there before, then obviously I've got no objection to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're almost supporting that application then. Certainly no objections. I think we may be all looking forward to getting back inside one of those places. So moving on, application 210743M, and this is a raising of the existing main house structure in addition to a new single-storey rear extension and dormer on Sandringham Road. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This Sandringham Road, for people that don't know the actual area itself, is an area where there's a number of bungalow properties, and this application is to significantly both enlarge and raise up the height of the existing building. There's been a number of objections from residents on the planning portal and about concerns about hazardous materials in the area, concerns about the height, that the changes will be out of keeping with the other properties, and the materials that are proposed to be used also out of keeping with other properties. So I would like to suggest that we note the neighbour objections and that we ask the planning officer to take these issues into account and make sure there are no breaches of the local plan or planning policies when examining this application. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Roberts.
The only thing I noted in this application, the absence of an environmental report regarding what Councillor Wilson said. I was pretty gobsmacked when I found that it's not on the website. Maybe they haven't put it on.
Yeah.
I completely agree with what Councillor Roberts has just said. And I mean, there are concerns expressed by neighbours about hazardous materials. So I think I'll be happy to, add to my previous comments that we do expect an environmental report to be prepared and considered, and we would ask the planning officer to make sure that happens before taking their decision.
Yeah, I was surprised too to not see an environmental report, and wondered whether it was in character. So yeah, we'll leave that for them to decide. Moving on to the next application, 210746M. This is a proposed single-storey side extension on Austell Avenue. No comments there. Next, we have application 210755M, and this is the replacement of an existing flat roof with a pitched roof on Wayside Road. No comments there. 210886M. This is the ground floor rear extension on Chester Road. No comments there. We have, moving on to the supplementary agenda, we have two more applications on that. The first one is 210854M. This is in Parkmount Drive. It's the demolition of conservatory replaced by a family room and front porch. There's no comments there. And finally, application 210858M. It's on London Road. It's a two-storey side extension and a link to a garage. There's no comments there. Right, we're moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the conservation area review. The report is attached, so it's to note the report and further updates. And I'd like to bring in Councillor Jackson to speak to this.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, well, work's continuing on the conservation area appraisal review, and the council has now charged a consultancy to take this work on, Donald Dinsel Associates. So they are now working with the town council. The consultant has produced a draft stakeholder engagement plan to engage with key groups in Macclesfield, and 4 groups have been identified, and we will be consulting with them in the form of workshops, and they are being scheduled over the next few weeks. The first one we have already with a date for the 1st of March is an internal workshop with town council members and Cheshire East Council members, or shall I say Cheshire East Council officers, conservation, planning, enforcement, regeneration and highways. They've all been invited to take part in our internal workshop. We then have a heritage workshop, and that consists of Historic England, the Victorian Society, Macclesfield Civic Society, Macclesfield Silk Heritage Trust, and a number of local historians. Workshop 3 is our local interest workshop, and that will take place on the 11th of March. And that is for business representatives, market representatives, faith group, Macclesfield Town Centre Recovery Group, Disability Information Bureau and the Environment Group. And finally, our workshop 4 is the schools, and that is Macclesfield College, Tidderington School, Fallybroom Academy, All Hallows Catholic College and Macclesfield Academy. So the schools workshop and the heritage workshop remain to have dates as yet. But as you'll see, our internal workshop, that's meeting on Monday, and the local interest workshop will take place just 10 days later. So we are moving on with this, and we'll report back to future planning meetings. So thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Jackson. You can see that we're trying to involve almost everybody in the town. Which is that's fantastic. Now, the town character, item 7 on the agenda, town character assessment, it's a slightly different thing, and Councillor Wilson is going to update us on this.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chair. We have a character assessment working group set up, which consists of myself, yourself, Chair, and Councillor Jackson. And we are reviewing what planning document we aspire to be, a strategic planning document for the town character. We've set some draft objectives, and at our most recent meeting on the 5th of February, we set out some broad principles for the town character assessment, that we would identify broad principles not covered in existing local planning policy to preserve or enhance the positive characteristics of Macclesfield when integrating new development. We would identify broad principles not covered in existing local planning policy that would mitigate the impact of negative characteristics of Macclesfield when integrating new development, and to identify broad principles not covered in existing local policy that could mitigate against the environmental impact of new development within different areas of townscape. We're looking to produce a written report with supporting photographs and maps, and we're looking at producing a flexible resource about the character of our town, which could be updated in the future. We're preparing to work with a planning consultant, and we're engaging on this with Cheshire East Council Planning Department, and we have a meeting to discuss further with the planning department our aspiration for this to be a material planning document on the 12th of March. So once again, Chair, good progress is being made with this project. Thank you.
Excellent news. Thank you. Moving on to item 8 on the agenda. This is street naming, and it's linked to planning application 200246M, which is the development at the Fence Avenue site. And Councillor Wilson is going to lead us through the proposals, maybe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Attached to our agenda today is a letter from Cheshire East Council concerning the new street naming proposals for the Fence Avenue development. We've been written to ask our opinion and comments on this, as we are a statutory consultee in these matters as a town council. And a proposal's been made that the street names be named after former headmasters' names of the King's School. But I would like to make an alternative proposal for the committee to consider. I think the idea of naming the streets after the former head teachers of a local school is a good one. But of course, the site was Macclesfield County High School for girls for over a century before it became part of the King's School campus in Macclesfield. In fact, the first head teacher of the girls' school in 1880 was a Miss Lariat, right through for over 100 years. In fact, Councillor Jackson and I are former pupils of the school, and we went to the school for the last time in June 2019 for the very last ever old girls reunion. And at that time, nostalgia hit me, being stood outside the headmistress's office and remembering back to the many times I'd visited the headmistress's office. And I did take a photograph of the board that's outside the office. And I think it would be very, very fitting if the street names of this development were named after the former head teachers of the girls' school, Macclesfield County High School for Girls, which was opened in the 1880s and survived as a girls' school for over a century. And so therefore, I think it's very fitting that the girls' school is remembered in this way, and it will send a very strong and important message to girls and young women students in Macclesfield, that we honour the names of important women in education in our town. So I'd like to propose that we agree with the head teacher's proposal, but we wish that to reflect the girls' school that was there for over a century. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like to second that proposal. When this suggestion came through from the developer for the headmasters' names, immediately my reaction was, well, what about the fact that it had been a girls' school for so long? And really we should acknowledge that in the history of the area. And so I certainly support the fact that the names should be taken from that list we have of the headmistresses at the girls' high school. So I would hope that the developer will take that on board, and so we may be able to propose the names we would prefer of that list, because there are more than required. So it might be that we could do that, and I think we would like to do that. But definitely, I think they should. I would hope that they will take this on board and work with us to get an appropriate list. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to propose an amendment for one road to be added to it, which I'll move on to in a second. I understand, I did say before that I don't like, for instance, I live in an area of Tithington that is named after golf courses in Ireland and Scotland and so on, which I don't like particularly, and also part of the estate is named after rare birds and so on. And I understand that the reason is that it's to stop clashes with similar postal named lanes. And I see amongst the teachers in 1941, there was a teacher called Walker, and I know that there's a Walker Lane not very far away from that area in Sutton. If we count up all of them, it comes between 1899 and 1978, 8 ladies, and there's a couple of reserves, so we should be able to get to the number. Well, my proposal is that we add the name of a young lady who very sadly died last year, called Kelly Smith, and I'd like to call the main road going through Kelly Smith Way. I think it's good that a local person is represented, and I think it fits in very nicely with, I won't go into all her details and so on, but the main road through is called Kelly Smith Way or Kelly Smith Drive, and all the side roads are named after the teachers, and I think that fits in very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Yes, I'd like to second that amendment, Mr. Chair. Kelly is, as Councillor Edwards has alluded to, a young lady who lost her life to bowel cancer, but as a mark of respect and for the absolutely amazing work that she did in the town in raising, and is still doing, even in death, she is still raising awareness through social media. I think it was only the other week, it was on BBC again, raising awareness for people with bowel cancer, and the work that she did with her illness leading up to a sad death was still continuing and will continue into the future. So I would excuse me, I would like to second that amendment from Councillor Edwards in naming the main drag into the estate in honour of Kelly Smith, whether it be drive or way. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, are you happy
I'm very happy to second that amendment to my original proposal made by Councillor Edwards and Councillor Roberts. I think it's entirely fitting that a young woman locally should be remembered in this way. and pleased that the family, are content with the proposal as well.
Thank you. So, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, so as seconder of the original proposal, I also support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so all those in favour of the amended motion? That's us all. Thank you. That'd be great. Yeah. So moving on now to the item 9, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. This item is about the National Planning Policy Framework and National Model Design Code consultation. The Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government is consulting on a draft text of the National Planning Policy Framework and seeking views on the draft National Model Design Code. This is a very key document for planning matters. The National Planning Policy Framework is regularly referred to in planning meetings at Cheshire East level, both Northern Planning, which covers our geographical area here in Macclesfield, and also the Strategic Planning Board. So this is a very important document which contains a number of sections concerning conserving and enhancing the historic environment, on town centre regeneration, making effective use of land, in promoting healthy and safe communities, building a strong competitive economy, environment, delivering a sufficient supply of homes, which is something that is a very hot issue in Macclesfield when new development is proposed, where residents believe that the proposal is beyond the housing need in our area. So it's a very detailed document. There's lots in there. So I would like to propose, Chair, that we adopt the procedure we've previously done with these types of documents, and that we set up a working group of councillors. Any councillor, what we've done in the past is we've clearly involved planning committee members, and the 3 we had recently were yourself, Chair, myself and Councillor Jackson. And what we did quite clearly, we invited any other councillors of Macclesfield Town Council who might wish to be involved. But I think this document is very important. The closing consultation is 11:45 p.m. on the 27th of March 2021. So we have ample time we've got a month, haven't we? Just over a month to consider this. So my proposal is that we set up a working group. In fact, I think we should have a generic working group for planning consultations. I think from the admin and governance manager's point of view, I think that would be, a sensible governance agreement, that we have a working group with terms of reference set up for this type of thing, and then we can give some really good devoted time to have a conversation about any amendments and comments we have, and then of course those proposals would come back to both the planning committee, and the minutes of working groups do of course go to full council. So we're also achieving a good scrutiny on what we're actually doing on what is a very important topic and of great concern to residents. I'm sure I'm the same as all other councillors here, and that we get a lot of correspondence from residents on planning matters. And I think we do listen to this level at our planning committee. We're able to listen to the concerns of residents and represent them, at the decision-making bodies as a statutory consultee. So my proposal in short is that we set up a working group to deal with this, so we can give it further and required detailed consideration.
Okay. Would you like to second that proposal? I'll talk to it. Councillor Jackson.
Yes, I'll just formally second that. I think it is a good idea to have a set working group that will then be able to discuss and give comment on any planning consultations that come in. I think it would be a lot easier for the admin and governance manager then, instead of having to set up individual groups each time a consultation comes in, and we can have a standard terms of reference, and then, because I think we're going to get a lot of these coming through, so we might as well be prepared and get it get it sorted out now. So thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. So we can move forward and well, let's put that proposal to the vote unless anybody else wants to speak on it. All those in favour of that proposal? Thank you. Okay. Right. Moving on. We don't have any correspondence as far as I'm aware, and we don't have any members' items. So that just leaves us to inform about the date of the next planning meeting, which is to take place at 10 AM on the 19th of March this year. Again, it will be on Zoom for the time being as we advance towards freedom, but not quite yet. So it'll be another Zoom meeting on the 19th. So can I formally close this meeting now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.